And welcome back to Dr. Drill's Making Motivation podcast, where it is our mission to honor interesting and authentic people and tell their highly motivating stories. Yes, yes, man, it's my life's work. And do I run into some interesting people, some authentic individuals? I'm also seeking out some opportunities on my own at on the cusp of 50 years of age, level 50, if you will. Um, I become well. I mean, it's become apparent to me. It's obvious that I've got more road behind me than in front of me, and so I've accomplished some pretty cool things in my life, to include starting a wonderful family, raising some kids, got a wonderful marriage. I've got a practice full of patients, people that are represent a veritable melting pot of individuals, and I love them and I embrace them, literally and figuratively, and I enjoy the ride. But there's a lot of ground that I have yet to cover. I yearn to have experiences and see things, particularly throughout the United States, um, that will fill me up with awe and stories to tell, meet some interesting people. It's always going to have something to do with being outside when it comes to an adventure that I would want to go on. So, as you can see here in the background, this beautiful background, this is a segment of Zion National Park in Utah, Springdale, Utah. So I'm going to tell you all about this, every little nitty gritty detail. Maybe take a half hour, 45 minutes. Tell you about my recent trip to Zion National Park. That is a long time coming. So if you'd like to hear it, here it go. This right here, you were in a canyon, all right? And there's a river that flows in that canyon that has cut very deep, a rut basically, for countless years, long before humans probably were even in the area. And so it's called the Virgin River today. You can see that it's kind of like a blue, gray, milky, clean looking. I wouldn't drink it because it's probably got some friggin' Giardia lamblia. Giardia lamblia. It's a fucking crazy looking microbe that you don't want to get in your gastrointestinal tract because it'll fuck your day up. All right, you'll be freaking shitting and pissing and puking and everything else all at once. I don't know if I ever told you about the store when I was in the Marines. We had a guy, we'd go off on these humps, these forced marches with all kinds of gear, rucking all kinds of gear, carrying our weapons and all kinds of extra shit. It was hot and the friggin' loads were heavy and it was fucking humid and it sucked. But there would be like ducks in a line, just friggin' one after the other, 100 guys long, skirting both sides of the road. And last thing you want to do would be to fall out. That would mean that you couldn't hack it. And what would the circumstance be that would make you fall out of a hump, a forced march between 10 and 20 miles? Well, you could fall out as a heat casualty, which is the most common. You could fuck your feet up, roll an ankle, sprain or break it, but usually it was heat casualties. That's why they're always big on hydration. So you guys think that we're big on water now with everybody walking around with these Stanley fucking thermoses and shit. And kid fucking meatheads drinking damn gallon water jugs in Planet Fitness. We were really big. We were big on water before it was cool to be big on water. So we'd have two canteens. We'd freaking glug, 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 suck those babies down. We'd, eat our standard American chow hall diet to make sure we had ample electrolytes. And we would go, freaking marching all the way with all this gear to the destination. And it was like it was a test. Basically, how hard can we make it for these Marines? Because we might have to, for lack of tanks or helicopters or boats, you might have to walk right up to the objective and locate, close with, and destroy the enemy. So, long story short, fucker, we're out there hiking down the road on a hump, and somebody fell out because of due to heat casualty. So heat exhaustion, at least, perhaps heat stroke. The guy passed out, face planted in the fucking road. They sit him down, they loosen his clothing, take his pack off. They're making him sip water, and the medics come out to check him. And the guy, my platoon sergeant, my platoon guide, he was a sergeant, and I was probably a lance corporal or a corporal at the time. He goes, "OB, that guy had spit coming out his mouth and shit coming out his ass." So if you want to go take a little sip from the Virgin River, you might plan for that contingency, the possibility of getting sick. There's all kinds of hikers out there pissing and shitting and who knows, runoff. Anyway, not to dilly-dally with that. Look at this beautiful friggin' water that has carved in these sandstones. Much of it's called Navajo sandstone. So Navajo sandstone is a stone that's made of compressed sand. It has been indicated in my readings that the geology of this area was basically giant sand dunes millions of years ago. And over time, those dunes, the weight of those dunes would compress it into some sort of composite material. And now you're looking at a stone. Now you could take a piece of the sandstone, you could rub it across another stone or something even harder, like a piece of metal. Here's a sandstone, by the way. This is Navajo sandstone. So you could take this and probably score it a little bit with your fingernail and leave a little mark. So it's relatively soft as rocks go. Man, I love organic shit. Any inorganic shit. I love nature. I'm a nature freak and a freak of nature, my friends. You understand that? It's that type of day when you got the friggin' dumbasses driving around their motorcycles and the friggin' hot rods too. Muscle car guys out there with their tiny little dicks. Squealing wheels all around the neighborhood. Here comes one of the little fart knockers, little fucking Honda Civic with a fucked up muffler on it. There weren't too many of those in Zion National Park, thankfully. So that's why I went, my friends. Why would I seek out a beautiful gorge like this? It's so gorgeous. Because I want to get the fuck away from people, man. I love nature. I love natural things. I love plants and few animals, rock formations, and breathtaking landscapes to take in because it's slow and our civilization is fast and stressful. We're trying to maintain this frenetic pace, and it's troubling to be part of that, you know. So you just need a comparison to understand that fully. You go into a place like this river gorge. It's called the Narrows, by the way. So you walk into the Narrows with a rented wooden hiking stick pole and some special shoes that kind of the water can seep in and out of them, so you don't get so waterlogged. You also have neoprene socks that you can rent. So that's like, I don't know, $30 a pair. So me and my cousin, we rented those boots and socks and sticks. And you start down here. There's about 1 million people that are walking down this damn lane. And it's about a 9-mile hike. So you can go 9 miles down this gorge, and to the left and right, you're looking up and you see just hundreds of feet, maybe 1,000 foot up. And then you just see the sky. So this is maybe 30 to 50 foot wide. And you're walking in this creek bed with all that gear. And we pack a little lunch, hike along. Maybe we'd stop right in here, put our backs up against this canyon wall and pull out our little sandwiches and stuff, little protein bars, sipping on water all the way. Pretty friggin' awesome, my friends. Pretty special. So the Narrows. I'm going to show you a few other things as well. But I want to tell you it's from soup to nuts how the now obviously if you're listening to this and if you're looking at this background, you are very interested. If you're like me, you know, you might want to take a trip like this. Backing up, as a young man, when I served my country in the United States Marine Corps, I spent a solid year and a half of 4 years deployed. That it was peacetime deployments, but we were all over the world, right? So I did 6 months floating around the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, the Black Sea. We stopped along all these ports in Europe, from Spain, Israel, Greece, Morocco, Turkey. Where else? I say France, Israel. Um, then, we went to Ukraine. We went to former Yugoslavia, Ukraine, former Russia. Uh, then I did 6 months in Okinawa. And from Okinawa, Japan, we went to um, Australia for a few weeks. And I also went to Cuba for 3 months. And part of my unit went to Korea. So I have visited a lot of cool places and seen some pretty cool things. Like when we went to Italy, I took a bus trip to Rome. And when we went to Israel, I took a bus trip to Bethlehem. So you're able to do some sightseeing while you're there. But as a young man of 18, 19 years of age, what did I want to do? I wanted to get laid, and I wanted to hit the bar and cut loose. Me and my buddies would beat each other up and curse and swear and just act like young warriors act. That's part of why I did that job. It's because I wanted adventure. I wanted kind of like an adult version of Lord of the Flies or something like that. I don't fucking know. It's something in the male DNA, the Y chromosome, testosterone. But I did it, and I did it well. Visited some cool spots, but long story short, I would like to have explored some of those things. As a middle-aged man now, I would certainly visit those places and do some different things instead of just getting drunk. But so I've been to all these cool places in the world, but then I come back to the United States and I start studying and I start working and I get married and raise a family. And there are several decades of my life, two solid decades of my life, that had me as a homebody, taking nice vacations, but they were to Disney World or the beach or something like that. I want to see some shit now, my friend. February 26th, 2024, 5, I will be 50 years of age, and I got a lot of friggin' life ahead of me. And while I'm physically and mentally able, I want to see all the beauty, especially in the United States of America. That is all the national parks. I want to see friggin' Yellowstone. I want to see the Grand Tetons. I want to see the Badlands. I want to see Yosemite. I want to see the New River Gorge down here in West Virginia, and so on. Fucking Everglades, all that shit I want to see. And so I'm going to do it. And you know what? If no one wants to go with me because they'd rather go to the beach, then for our standard family vacation down to Bethany, which we love, then we can do that. And I'm going to do this as well. But I think I got some takers after the Zion trip. So, okay, so let's see. What do we got? Let me maximize this screen there. So the background on the Zion trip is that I have a buddy who lives in Flagstaff, Arizona. His name is Jim Rosenberg. I call him Rosie. We went to chiropractic college together. We're always kind of cut out of the same cloth in terms of our liking adventure, liking to laugh and carry on. And he's a hell of a guy. I love him so much. And I've missed him because, again, busy lives. So he lives out there in Flagstaff, Arizona, formerly of Montana and Idaho and Oregon. He's very well traveled across the West. And so we tried to put together a man venture, quote unquote, approximately 3-4 years ago. And we had it planned. I was going to fly into Phoenix. We were going to hike into southern Utah. We were going to raft down the Colorado River. We were going to do all kinds of cool stuff. And a 5-day trip. COVID cooties canked that. Okay. They canceled that for us, which sucked. So, obviously, for several years, I did not travel. For the first couple of years after COVID, it seemed disgusting and unsafe. and stayed local. And since then, it's just kind of like everybody's been in a stupor and just trying to get their feet back under them. But it was time. And I had that conversation with my wife and kids. I said, hey, check it out. I looked at Costa Rica. Look at all these awesome things. They got volcanoes. They got beaches. They got jungles. Let's go to do that. It'll be a perfect combination of, relaxation and adventure. They're like, oh, that looks great. That looks great. And when push came to shove, everybody's kind of wanted to go down to Bethany Beach, which is 3 hours away. And we've been taking the kids there for as long as they've been alive. So almost 20 years. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do this and I'm going to book it, because if I don't, I never will. So I booked a 5-day trip in the fall and I just went on it. It was October 3rd through the 7th. I convinced my cousin to go with me. We're basically the same point in life and similar mindsets. So we went out to Zion National Park, which again is in Utah, Springdale, Utah. It's about 3 hours east. Yeah, 3 hours east from Vegas. So you fly into Vegas and you rent a car and you drive 3 hours across the desert. And the desert, there's fucking nothing, my friends. There's rocks and sand and cactuses, and not even the pretty cactuses that you would think of a cartoon cactus. More like pickle, what do they call them? Pickle pears or something like that. It's like a little like a little elephant ear or something like that. They're little prickly pears, I think they're called, because I looked them up with my little app. So you got sagebrush, prickly pears, and sand and rocks, and a whole lot of nothing flat. You got solar farms out there, acres and acres. You can see them in the distance, glistening blue, and light for the sun refracting off of them, and just trying to capture some of that ample sunlight from the sun, which it's fucking everywhere. There's nowhere to hide from it, right? So you got maybe jackrabbits and rattlesnakes and lizards and some rodents and stuff out there, I imagine, but not a whole lot else. All of a sudden, up comes some of the terrain. You start to see a red rock mountain range in the distance. We're talking maybe 6,000-7,000 feet maximum. At this point, you're maybe at 2 or 3. The rocks go up. You see what's called a mesa, which is looks like a mountain with the top cut off. So there's like a plateau. That's what they call mesas. And I learned that it's interesting. A mesa is like if you've got a mountain, let's pretend this is a little mountaintop over here. This would represent a harder type of stone, different type of stone. And then everything below it on both sides is that sandstone. And so as the wind and the rain starts to erode everything underneath this stronger stone, it creates like a freaking tabletop little plateau. So they're pretty neat. There's mesas there, and we're talking about, look at the color of this background here. You got browns and reds and grays and pale colors, like a tan, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Looks like a painter's brush, like a watercolor painter. Pretty awesome. So that's what it looks like out there as you're approaching Utah from Nevada, Las Vegas. So then you start to get closer and closer, and you go through some smaller towns called, there's one called Hurricane, not Hurricane, but Hurricane. And it's fucking, again, there's you can see all of a sudden, there's nothing, whole lot of nothing. And then we got some terrain coming up, and all of a sudden you see developments, like but with terracotta roofs and kind of nice looking, but it's dry as a fucking bone. There's maybe some palm trees that indicates there's a town. And then Hurricane, they got us a Walmart. So we go in there. It didn't even look like there was any restaurants around. We go into friggin' Hurricane, the super Walmart, and this is part of our plan. We're going to go We're going to pick up the essential food items, including bringing power bars, Jimmy Dean's sausage, egg, and cheese, nuts, things like that. Water, we got like 5-gallon containers or 3.5-gallon containers of water with a little spigot, so that we could ensure that our drinking water was clean and potable. So we throw all this in our rental, which was an upgraded from a Chevy Malibu. It turned out to be a Toyota Corolla Camry. So we throw that in the trunk. It's hot as balls. All kinds of freakazoids in Walmart. We go in there, and we friggin' load it up. We put this in the trunk, then we head into Zion. All of a sudden, beautiful. You walk into, or you drive into the town of Springdale, and you've got just restaurants and hotels and understated, not like lights, camera, action, but really tasteful shops and restaurants lining the road. And next thing you know, we pull up to our Zion campground, and we stayed in a cool structure. I'm going to show you right now. Do a little screen share. Let's see. So there you go. All right, so this is the Zion cabins. So back here, of course, you got these beautiful mountainsides, right? All this green shit there. That's sagebrush. A couple nice little trees there that they've planted. Look at that. That's your backdrop all around. 360 degrees, you will see beautiful rock mountain formations like that. And you just look up there and you're awestruck and you wonder, man, how high is that? What it would be like to be, like how long would it take me to climb to here? And do people actually climb these mountains? And so on and so forth. You're sitting there. So this was us. Let's say this is our cabin C1. Look at this. This is in Utah, so it's 2,200 miles away. But these cabins were at least packaged and made in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Yes, my friends, these are Lancaster log homes. So they're absolutely beautiful and clean as you can possibly imagine. They're essentially brand new. Little porch, and you got some damn little seats up here, little Adirondack chairs you can hang out in. Inside this door, you got a little kitchenette on the right, and all the way to the back, you got a bathroom with a fan that is so powerful that it blows any of your farts or poop smells way the fuck out of there really quick. Then through this window, you got a futon, and then behind that, you've got a set of bunk beds, and then finally the master bedroom is on the left in the back, and it's like a queen size. So you could probably have 3 or 4 people stay in this thing. It was like, all told, it was $1,000 for a 5-night stay. And let me tell you, there are some friggin' hotels in the area that you could probably blow $1,000 on a 2-night stay. So these accommodations had everything, had air conditioning, blowing the entire time, because it was about 100 degrees during the day, dry heat though. And at night, it was about 60 or 70 degrees. So what a beautiful accommodation. There's 50 of these cabins here. Behind, there are places where people can park their RV or their camper or whatever they got. And then there's the Virgin River that is right in this valley. You're in the valley that the Virgin River cut. So that's back there. And I'd say that's about the width of the Perkiomen Creek. It's more of a creek than a river to me. Which is one of the sad things, because it's so beautiful out the west, but it is so dry, my friends. This is a high desert. Very, very parched, especially when you're not near a river or a creek like that. So what makes it particularly beautiful is that everything is dry as a bone and rock and sand and scrub, fucking sage and shit. But then you've got this river nearby. You can see things get much more green as you get close to the river. Hold on, let me make sure. Hell am I at? Okay. Hope you saw that. Yeah, I think you did. So the accommodations were absolutely awesome. This is our schedule basically. We unpacked our shit. We put all our Walmart food items in the little mini fridge, stocked everything up real nice. And then we went and we rented our hiking poles to do this Narrows hike the following day. And we just filled up our water bladders, explored a little bit. On day one, we did a hike called the Watchman, which was very near the our cabin. It was probably half a mile away from the cabin. It's walkable to the national park entrance, called the Visitors Center. So that's where you enter the national park. The town of Springdale has a shuttle and about a dozen stops, and then maybe across 2 miles. So there was a shuttle stop probably 100 feet from our cabin front door. So we could walk up to the shuttle, take the shuttle wherever we wanted, in or out of town. And we would, of course, always go into the national park. So a tenth of a mile down the road, many times we would just walk it a short while down the road. You're at the Visitors Center. So we went through there. We followed the signs for the Watchman. And the Watchman is an absolutely beautiful hike. We were kind of jet lagged and exhausted and a little dehydrated. But up you go into these beautiful mountains and winding path and crazy rock formations. And you're looking over the edge and you're saying, oh my God, I am so small. And everything is so significant here. That's why I say it was a spiritual experience. I had someone ask me the other day, "Oh, tell me about what you said spiritual experience. Like, what do you mean? Like, do you find God up there?" I don't know if I call it God. Anybody who's listening to these podcasts or knows me, that I'm kind of an agnostic and very scientifically minded person. Like I respect everyone's beliefs, but I'm not religious. I don't have a deity that I worship to. I don't have a storyline that I follow. I don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I just don't. Believe me, I've had plenty of people try to petition me to do that. And I've gone to church, and it's just not my bag, man. Not my bag. Seems like something man would make, respectfully speaking. So man did not make these, okay? Man did not make this canyon. If God made it, that's great. But it seems to me like it's a giant, rock that was cut through with water, which is H2O. And one of the only reasons why we have any life on this planet is because it's bathed in water and it's in the proximity of the sun, right? So fucking awesome. We take that shuttle ride, or we mosey on down to the Visitor Center. We get in line for the shuttle that takes you through the park. And again, there's about a dozen stops, big shuttles, like you'd find at Disneyland, Disney World, where they've got that kind of articulation in the middle of two buses. So it's like a double bus, and they're all electric powered. I thought that was crazy, given how big they are, how much cargo they carry. But they got big electrical buses, and they'll drop you off at this trailhead or that trailhead. And again, on day 2, we're all ready. We did the Narrows, packed a lunch, walked up this canyon, saw some incredible things. And as was written, it's freaking pain in the ass walking up that canyon. You're slipping and sliding on rocks, and you got your hiking pole, and it gets tiring. So we probably did 4, maybe 4 miles, 5 miles up the canyon, turned around, had lunch, turned around, came back. And it was pretty neat. There's a lot less people the further you down the canyon you go, because most people lose their patience and they're like, fuck this, man. This is cold. This is wet. When we went, it was a beautiful day. It was probably 100 degrees in the bare sun, and it was about 70 degrees in the canyon. You got some shade, and I laid down in that creek, man, because it was 70 degrees in the canyon. The water was probably 55, and it felt great, very refreshing. So we slept well that night. The next day, we went and we hiked something called the Emerald Pools Trail. More of the same. You've got, fairly challenging hikes, something that you could do with your family, but it's challenging, safe. You're going to go up and over and down and around, and you've got the lower emerald pools, and then the middle, and then the upper emerald pools. Basically, there's some runoff coming out of coming off the mountains there, some water dripping, and it creates a little waterfall between these three pools at successively lower elevations. And so that was an awesome hike. And then that was day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. We did something called Angel's Landing. I want to give you a little bit of a preview of this. Let me show you a short video. Stand by. This is fucking nuts, my friends. So holy shit, yes? Holy shit. Let's see if I can work this one. No, I can't. All right, so this is called Angel's Landing. And I had done considerable investigations of it before heading out to Zion. I was aware that it was pretty treacherous. They keep calling it the scariest or the most dangerous hike in America. It's at least one of the 10 most difficult hikes, most treacherous hikes to go on. And man, I can't say enough about this experience. They will ask you to, before you go on a hike like this, you have to get a permit. And permit is a standard form where it says, hey, put your name in for a lottery. And if you're selected for the lottery, you can go up and you can do this hike. What is not pictured is the area below this steepest part of the hike. This is towards the end, the last half mile of the hike. But for the first two, it's a 5 mile round trip. So you got two and a half out, 2.5 back. For about the first mile and a half, you are going along a level path that is right next to the Virgin River. And then it starts to climb up a little bit. You will go on these little winding courses that they call switchbacks. And then the switchbacks, they go from very undulating, and all of a sudden you do this sort of thing. And those are called Walter's Wiggles. This is after the designer, the engineer of this hike. He created this hike. And I'm sure I'd like to read that book. But that allows you to gain elevation. So you go up Walter's Wiggles, and then you go through a mountain pass, and all of a sudden you climb up a little bit more, and you're at the base of this crazy hike that I'm going to show you a better picture of. Hold on a second. Zion. Let me see if I can. Angel's Landing. So that was a really good. I hate this look at. There's too many people on that one. Let me see. There's a vantage point that I want you to see. I guess that's it. No, it's not good enough. Let's do. This is it, I guess. There we go. How about that right there? Or that. Let's see. Oh, okay. I got all the different aspects of it. So check out. This is Walter's Wiggles. How badass is this? Don't do it. So check out these switchbacks here. That's what they look like from above. So you're going up around these little pads, and they're really pretty neat. It freaking exhausts you. So you see people stopping at various spots to try to friggin' catch their breath. You get all the way to the top, and then you're looking at something like Angel's Landing, which here's an example. Oh, wait, it's going to give us an entire thing. Hold on a second. So here's like your start. So you're walking along the Virgin River, and then it becomes paved. Which is nice and convenient. Probably prevents erosion and shit, right? So they maintain these trails painstakingly so. And you're going up this little switchback here, and here's the path, increasing elevation a little bit. Then you go up this landing here, if you will, which you're looking out and you're looking down and you're like, holy shit, man. So I'm hugging this, the inside of this mountain there. But it's crazy how comfortable you become. Like, okay, if I was watching on virtual reality or something like that, I'd freaking sit down, you know. But this is real, and it's just larger than life. So then you go up this landing, and then you go through this mountain pass, and you get a little break. And then starts to rise up a little bit. You go up Walter's Wiggles, these back and forth switchbacks. And then you're climbing up to the main event. And this is the view from the main event. They call this observation point, I believe. So everybody's hanging out here deciding whether or not they actually want to do this thing over here. All right. So this is where the hard work really begins. The last half mile is going to be on if you're sitting on a chair or a couch watching this, your seat, like basically the width of your ass cheeks, in some cases, this path is that wide. You're walking a ridge, right? So look at this. You got these crazy chains that are held into the mountain by these upright steel pipes. And so they've been there since the 1920s. And that is your path. That's how you get up. Unfortunately, the sandstone is pretty sticky. It's got a nice grit to it. So you got good grip going up this thing. And there's some foot placements that have either been worn into the path or they have been carved in by the architects of this thing. So there is another look at it. You're climbing the ridge of this mountain going all the way to the top there. And you could see this is where it's at its thinnest, it's most narrow. You see where they kind of carved a little bit of a step into this cliff here, this ridge. And down to the right and left, there's nothing for about 1,500 feet. So about a quarter mile down. Look at that. And you're holding on to this chain. Man, let me tell you, this fucking chain, I was holding on to that like a lifeline because that's exactly what it was. And then you got to go down, you got to go up all the way to the tippy top here. Here's that path. In some places, there's no chain. So you got to kind of scramble from here all the way and hug the friggin' mountain and then grab on hold that chain, sneak around bends, and there's somebody might be coming the other way. It is absolutely insane. And you want to take pictures of all this. Now you're at the top. This is the very top. So these trees here, they're absolutely nuts. You can't really see it so well, but the tree roots are like thick, like as thick as my forearms. They're like a fire hose, and they are like grabbing a hold of this rock, sticking their roots into every little nook and cranny so that they can stay up here. These pine trees living up top here. They're crazy. They're ballsy. And there's little chipmunks that'll scurry around, and I fed one pieces of an apple. People are hanging out. They walk all the way to the end over here. And you can see some absolutely tremendous views of the entire route that you've come up. And you come up and you look at that. You say, oh my gosh, I thought I was significant. I thought that I mattered or something like that. I am a pimple on the Earth's anus hole, all right, or at least their ass cheek. Here's that approach coming up again. You almost can't believe when you get to the top, you can't believe that you've made it. Then you got to go back down, and you get to the top. I was like, I wanted to take pictures. I wanted to be elated. I was, but I also, I wanted to celebrate, but I also didn't want to tempt fate and kill myself up there. So I very, very careful coming down the mountain. I don't know if I was this concerned in a very, very long time. Maybe when my children were born and I was in the labor and delivery, was I this concerned and anxious. Look at that thin ridge that you're climbing up. So I never would have done this hike. I never, ever would have done this hike if it wasn't for my friend Jim. This dude is a freaking adventure extraordinaire. He's done Angel's Landing about 3 times. And so he was kind of like, and I love him so dearly, but he's kind of got a bit of a, what is the term? A humor, like a sick humor about him, where he kept saying like, oh, I looked it up, about 2 seconds to, to think about if you fall. That's one thing. It says when you land is the big problem. It turned out it could be actually as many as 5 or 7 seconds. You're falling for that long. So you'd be pondering, if you were lost, your foot would have lost purchase. You'd be pondering, your untimely end. So they'll ask you on that waiver, if you are afraid, if they'll say, if you are scared of heights or if you have bad anxiety, then don't do this hike. And so I think most people get to observation point and they turn around and say, okay, that's cool. I see people doing it. Not for me, which I think is a good thing. But it astounded me that they actually let the public. I think it's cool on the one hand, but to let the public, this Joe Blow, to walk up that mountain and grab a hold of that chain with or without a waiver, I think it's crazy, because we all know the general public. They do some fucking nutty things and could wind up in a tough spot. And if you're up there, even if let's say you're surrounded by people who do this sort of stuff all the time and you're flipping out up there, you're going to put somebody else in danger, because then your ass needs to be saved. So the day that we did Angel's Landing, there was a ambulance helicopter flying through the mountain like a Black Hawk that had to save a guy, or it didn't save him. He was climbing, not Angel's Landing, but nearby, and he fell and to his death. So that has happened on Angel's Landing I think since its inception. I think there's been 14 fatalities, people that fall off. My buddy Jim, he said that, which is a good point to make. You can't ask somebody after they've fallen to their death, did they do it on purpose? But it's theorized that a good number of them could have been the situation. It's precarious enough. I mean, if you step 6 inches off the path, you're done. You're cartwheeling down into the canyon floor, and you're dead meat. So people have died doing it, and I would not have done that had Jim not been there and had done it before and was kind of applying some gentle pressure, simultaneously saying that he would make sure that we didn't die, but that other people had. And so I followed his instructions and followed every footstep very, very closely. And when I came down off that mountain, man, I felt like incredibly accomplished. I had done something that I had never done, and I've been hiking my entire life, just not at that elevation and not that precarious a path. That was pretty crazy, man. And so I've been saying that I don't know if I would. I'm glad I did it, and I would probably do it again. I don't know, though, whether I would recommend it to you, because it's serious business, and you can never really know how someone is going to respond until they're up on that mountain. And I mean, I saw people climbing up the chains with their kids who were single digits, and no way would I put my children in that sort of situation, or even my wife, or recommend that you do it as a friend if it's not something that you really like the outdoors and you've got some hiking under your belt, some experience in that regard, because it's very dangerous. And so it's surprising to me that the federal government, even though nobody can really sue the federal government, right? Since it's a national park, it is beautiful. Um, and people can go up there. There's millions of places where somebody could just step off a ledge and they're dead meat. So, but you can walk across the street and get hit by a car, God forbid. So, but it's interesting. It's interesting. I guess I just contrasted with our litigious society where there's got to be a waiver, or if you're going to go to a Six Flags Great Adventure, you got to be this high to ride this ride. And even then, bungee jumping, all these things that used to be big. I remember we used to go to the Seaside Heights Boardwalk. Bungee jumping was huge, and then somebody died. I'm sure that happened a few times. Equipment failures, wherever the hell the situation is. Action Park, right? Remember, I was going on and on about Action Park for a while in northwestern New Jersey because it was a place where, a rich guy designed all these crazy rides that, they couldn't possibly make them safe enough. And some of them were outright hazardous and people died or got maimed and shit like that. So now we've got, a lawyer on every corner, and you can't do any cool things anymore because there's all this red tape and liability. So that there are places that you can go and climb a mountain and grab a chain and stand on the top of the world, even though it's only 7,000 feet. I know that there are plenty higher mountains to climb. I think it's awesome. It's also scary because I'm familiar with the general public and how foolhardy they can be. So if you don't have an adequate fitness level, and if you are scared of heights, or if there's any doubt in your mind that you might flip out up on the mountain, I would not recommend Angel's Landing. But really, really cool hike, and I'm glad I did it. And I got footage too, but that's for another time. So we finish Angel's Landing. That is our final endeavor in Zion National Park. We come home. Of course, every night, after a 4 or 5 mile hike up in the mountains, we would get a really nice meal and just talk about our exploits, talk about our adventures back at the cabin, and a couple of beers, whatever. And unfucking believable, my friends. Unbelievable. So I will be back there. I'm conspiring to bring my wife. The next morning, we got some breakfast and we threw all our shit in the rental car. Head on back to Vegas. We had a fly out at red eye at midnight. And so we had a few hours to spare. We went to explore a little bit and get some grub. So we found a really nice brew pub, and we got some great food and a couple of beers and talked about the whole experience. And we walked around a little bit. I saw, of course, it's Vegas, so Sin City is right. The freakiest of the freaks, my friends. Unbelievable. To me, it's nothing that I want to be. It's not a place that I want to be or ever want to go again. I'll definitely fly into it to explore the West again. I want to do this shit. I want to see this sort of stuff. I picked this off the canyon floor in along what's called the Zion Mount Carmel Highway. So it's just a piece of pine bough or some sort of tree that's just it's so light because there's zero water left in it. Everything is out there just roasting in the sun all day long. I had to bring a piece of Zion National Park home with me. So I'm going to leave this at the office to remember it always. And then I got my little piece of sandstone. I got another one at home. I also brought home a pine cone from a pine tree that was littered. The ground was littered with all these pine cones that had opened, and they were large and in charge. But then I found one that was really closed up tight, had some resin on it. And so I put it in my pack and I brought it home. I got it on my windowsill at home. And I make it a little terrarium, a little open air terrarium where in a little Pyrex dish about yay big, I put some sandstone around it, put some earth, and I embedded the pine cone in that earth. And I'm going to water it and hopefully grow an authentic pine tree, the origins of which we're in the Zion National Park. So I was conflicted in doing that because I want to leave nature natural. I don't want to be rat fucking all of its bounty there, but there was just countless pine cones and rocks, so I had to bring something home. So I'm glad I did. And hopefully I'll grow a nice tree. I'll put it in my friggin' yard in Pennsylvania. Holy shit. Back to Vegas. Freakazoids everywhere. All right, you got friggin', I saw a Buddhist monk with parrot on his shoulder. Hey, you want to take a pic? You want to see it? Hey, you want to hold him? No, I don't want you fucking hold him. All right. Damn shirtless homeless people sitting on the side of the road, all fucked up, depressing. People scantily clad, men or women, walking around everywhere. Bright lights, liquor stores, everything smelled like weed, and I like weed, but it was like everywhere, ubiquitous. You go onto the most beautiful, renowned casino floors, and it's just a million people and bachelor parties apparently everywhere, and people cutting loose, and everybody's smoking fucking cigarettes. Listen, if you're smoking cigarettes in 2024, you're a fucking idiot. Are you not familiar with the science? Are you not familiar with people within your own family, probably, and certainly within your sphere, who have died a horrible death due to lung cancer as a result of smoking cigarettes? So the writing has been on the wall for a long time, and it's just offensive, man. It's like, hey, we're so free here. We're so risky here. We're willing to take such risks in Vegas that everything goes. Again, it's beautiful because it allows people to be themselves and cut loose and do whatever the fuck they want to do. But it's also really disgusting to me, dirty. I'm no prude, but I found myself in Vegas sitting at that bar in a nice booth, eating a grilled cheese sandwich and a tomato soup. And I almost had a panic attack because I was just stressed out by bright lights, big city, I wasn't digging it at all. It disturbed me, especially coming from such a beautiful, serene, natural place like Zion National Park. But I find it interesting that here I was climbing up to the top of Angel's Landing, very concerned, very nervous, very anxious, with stress hormones certainly coursing through my veins. But I was more stressed walking around Las Vegas Boulevard. You know what I mean? Just seeing all these fucking freakazoids. It's not anything that interests me at all. But like I said, I'll absolutely fly back into Vegas and get a meal, maybe take in a show. I'm sure there are redeeming things about it, but why anybody? I mean, there were people walking around with their children in baby carriages, and I felt like that was sickening, disturbing. It's no place for kids. Although I'm sure that you could stay at a nice hotel, and if you never leave the confines of your hotel, you probably got great restaurants and unlimited choice of food and entertainment and safety, luxury, hang out at the pool. There's probably a lot of cool things to do. So it can be done. It just, I think, coming from Mother Nature, from a beautiful place like Zion and going to Vegas, it turned me off big time. Not my bag. Trying to think if I got anything else to say. Come back home safely to Pennsylvania. We've actually flew into Newark. So for some reason, Waze took us through Bucks County, coming back into our Montgomery County here. And so we're driving through. It's a beautiful, crisp morning. We landed at like 6 a.m. We get the shuttle, pick my truck up. Can't wait to get home, see the family. And so we're driving through Bucks County, which is so beautiful, and it's a cool, crisp morning. There's a little bit of maybe a little bit of frost in the trees and the foliage and the grass, and every road's got a creek or a river skirting it, and all the moisture is my point. We are very fortunate to live in a place in the United States where we've got trees and grass and nature everywhere. It definitely gave me an appreciation for moisture and how important water is to us. Having been out there in Zion, I can see why George Lucas or Steven Spielberg or any sci-fi dork in creating a movie or envisioning a foreign land, a world, an alien world, I can imagine them drawing inspiration from a place like Zion National Park and the desert. You can watch it on TV, you can look at pictures, but nothing will truly give you an appreciation for the vastness than being there. You got to be there. In closing, there's something called the Zion Mount Carmel Highway, which I had read on a blog that would give you like a prospective itinerary. Said I would do that. One of the first things to do is get in your car and drive the Zion Mount Carmel Highway, which is 20 miles long. So you're in your own car, and you're taking this circuitous course, this twisty and turny course. It's an overlook that gives you an appreciation from the inside of your car, and you can stop off at these little pull-offs, and you can hike around, do where the fuck you want. You can see all these beautiful rock formations and cliffs and the river below, and 20 miles up, turn around, come back. It is unbelievable. So that really got us riled up. And there's a couple spots. There's 2 tunnels that are, one of them's a mile long. So they blasted a mile through a mountain and created this tunnel that's, still part of the park. And you go through that and you come out the other side. You're like, holy shit, this is fucking nuts. So I always want to give a round of applause to this being an election year and everybody's at each other's throats. Man, you got a place like Zion National Park that our presidents, I believe it was Teddy Roosevelt, who I think he was friends with Audubon, John James Audubon, or whoever the fuck else. And they took him up there and they looked at all this beautiful land in the West and they said, you know what? We're going to preserve this. We're going to make this a national park. And so that's why we have the Yellowstones and the Zions and the Badlands and all this stuff. I'd like to read more on that, but that's pretty awesome that once upon a time our politicians took pause and awestruck looking at all this beauty. They said, we're going to preserve this for our people. And in fact, everyone, there were people speaking many different languages over there while we're out in Zion. Germans and French and Australians and Asian, Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees. Look at these people from all walks of life were there enjoying this. And so I think that says something about this place. So I can't wait to go back. Love and respect. That concludes my walkthrough of Zion National Park. I endorse it fully. If you have any questions about itinerary or how to do this right, I have a lot to offer.